Okay, good morning, everyone. It's the Senate Transportation Committee. Good morning. We're going to continue our discussion, hopefully to wrap it up soon on the T-bill. And he is with us this morning to continue our discussion. And I think I heard you say you left off in section 17. Is that correct?
Oh, I was telling Senator Perchlik that what was section 16 is now section 17. But where we left off at the end of last week was we had finished going through draft 1.1 of your amendment and the side proposals like the electrify your fleet language, the bicycle safety turned micromobility with emphasis on bicycle safety program. Some of Senator Chittenden's language had been side proposals. And what I've done is I've combined everything into draft 1.1, changes that I was directed to make since 1.1 or since those side proposals. So if something has been seen before by the committee, so for example, Senator Perchlik and I were talking about the electrify your fleet language to address the request from Community Rides Vermont to have those additional increased incentives. That won't be highlighted here since it was something that the committee coalesced around when it was the side proposal. So the only highlighting you're going to see is new things either from the editors or from sort of the last round of committee discussions. And my plan was to walk through it, point out anything that had changed. And then I think you're in a position, unless there are additions to the amendment or changes that come up today, to be pretty close to being finished with the bill. That's what the committee wants.
Good. Okay.
Okay, so starting on page 1, first change is just a corrections that needed to be pluralized, wasn't, and now it is. So that's going to be on page 1, line 11.
Oh, I can't accept that.
Well, I will have to go convey that to the editors.
Discussion.
At least an hour.
Okay, your next new language, you have not seen this yet. This is on the top of page 4 within your section 1, subsection C, collection of technical corrections. These are changes to the white book that are originating from the agency, not a change that the General Assembly is making, just a number was wrong, projects were included that weren't supposed to be included. And that's the case for these 2 projects. This was caught when Chris was going through the white book, and within the transportation program for rail, the project details that come after the first few pages of that tab, there were 2 projects that were included there. Please correct me if I get this wrong. There were 2 projects that were included in the project details section that were not supposed to be. They just should never have been included in the project details section. So this is removing them from those project details. And they're 2 statewide rail projects. They have fairly nondescript names, but they are related to maintenance for railroad bridges and other railroads.
Well, we're talking about rail. There's a luncheon this Thursday noon on the train. They have
The train's coming.
trains coming Thursday noon. So put on your agenda if you're interested. Okay, great.
Okay, so I think this is pretty straightforward. The agency has seen it and Chris has seen it. Your next,
I want to know what kind of personality would have gone through line by line and cross-referenced.
Sick and twisted.
I think so. I think you need clinical intervention.
Probably a Philadelphia fan.
I think.
Go Birds.
okay, this then takes us into section 2. The committee saw what I would say was the kitchen sink version of section 2 last week. And then per your direction, stripped out some of what was the extraneous language that doesn't necessarily reflect this is a fiscal investment that we're making in something that is going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and save Vermonters money. So you'll see on page 7 in subdivision 4 that there is less that is being called out for public transit. So it's just saying that this includes Go Vermont and the MTI grant program. The rest of what had been included for public transit, like the fact that Green Mountain Transit was going to be coming up with this tiered fare service plan, that has been removed. The next change you're going to see is in subdivision 8. There used to be more here related to like the fact that the programs were being codified. That has been stripped away, and now it's just saying that no additional monies have been authorized for the state's vehicle incentive programs, but it then goes on to list out what is expected for those 3 programs. The next change you're going to see is there was a lot more information, the e-bike incentive program that also used to have more explanation there about the changes that were being made in the program. Instead, it's just saying it's authorizing the $50,000. And you'll see an expansion in the Electrify Your Fleet program. This is not highlighted because you saw it in that side proposal, but also specifying or drawing attention to the fact that there will be, and this is on lines 15 and 16, a limited number of increased incentives to nonprofit mobility services organizations. Next change you're going to see is scaling back on what was included for the carbon reduction planning grant requirement and the Protect Formula program. There was a lot more information included in this summary section about what the agency was going to be reporting on. Instead, this just is saying that this is what the fiscal year expenditure is going to be. And then a number of the other things that have been included in the summary section have been taken out. So this is now really much more, this is money that's being authorized for this purpose, providing some of the details that you wouldn't necessarily have unless you looked in the white book, like the fact that X number of new spaces are going to be available at park and rides and things like that. So I think you're good with section 2, but I'll pause there. Okay, section 3, I'm going to continue to highlight this section as this is that one page in the white book that has those 2 one-time appropriations for the governor's recommend coming from general fund or from, in the case of the St. Albans District Maintenance Facility, the capital fund operating. This is stripping that down to 0 for both of them, but the expectation is that there will be an amendment from Senate Appropriations that does something to this section once you know what the something is. Okay, and then you've got both of the projects being added in general. So you've got the district maintenance facility added to transportation buildings, and you've got the rail trail community connectivity grants. And what the change from the last time you saw this is it used to say in subsection A that that was a $3 million authorization. It now is saying that this project is added to the transportation program, but it is silent on the authorization amount. That's something that will be reflected in whatever the amendment from Senate Appropriations is.
But section 4 and 5 have always been in there. We didn't have.
Section 4 has always been in there. Section 5, you added back in, the House had taken it out.
Some great level meeting I told you about last night, Jane. There was great excitement for that 3 million.
I'm sure.
RTRT.
We have great excitement
Yes.
at the end of the hall. Senator Perchlik now knows as vice chair. But yes. It is a parade.
Okay, so the change you're seeing to section 6 is for cancellations is now plural because this is added back in. This was something the House took out, but the agency requested in the first version of the T-bill that the Bennington bypass project be canceled, and that's what's happening in subsection A, and then the other 2 subsections shifted accordingly.
And the benefit of doing it then, restate, is because the right of way that is being held in abeyance then would be available to the town for their purposes that they would like to use it for.
That's my understanding. And my understanding is also that this has been already like canceled by Federal Highway Administration, but because projects can't be canceled without the General Assembly approval, the agency can't do that last piece without your say so.
So with this, if this was to pass, Michelle, what would be going to do after the passage? Would there be action that you would take?
So yes, Senator, for the record, Michelle Buchenhauer, Agency of Transportation. We have already been actively working with the town of Bennington on a pathways project that would potentially utilize some of this right of way. They're still in the planning phases of that project. So we would, reach out to the community and let them know that, everything is clear now in terms of being able to move into next steps.
Do you have to do anything legally to give a
It would-
right?
It would probably, I'm not sure whether we would treat this as a long-term lease arrangement with the community or a transfer of property to.
Because you own the land, or we own the land.
We own the land, yeah. So I could find out those
No,
details
it's fine.
if you'd like.
And when you say a path, you mean like that?
Yeah, like a shared use path, yeah.
Thank you.
Does it lead to the Welcome Center?
I'm afraid I don't
Takes
know.
years to walk on.
I somehow doubt it.
There's a welcome center now.
Nobody can get to it, so I was thinking maybe the path with, follow the yellow brick road, so to speak.
Get out of your car, get on your bike.
And there are already restrooms there, so.
Yeah. It's,
Okay, section 8, this is the Sunville Garage Fund. One small change from the editors to include a subsection designation. This is going to be on page 14. I will not bore you with why it should say subsection and then include the subsection designation there. Has to do with degrees of separation. But I will highlight for you again that section 9, this was Senator Chittenden's proposal. It was a side document, that's why it's not highlighted here, but that's dealing with the appropriation and the depreciation calculation, but it is just on a temporary basis for state fiscal years 24 to 26. Next change you're going to get is in the section on the Green Mountain Transit Plan for tiered fared service. The only changes that you are seeing are related to just some technical tweaks from the editors using filing instead of submitted. And just highlighting for you once again, this was one of the instances, there were a few of them, where you had taken what the House had as double reporting requirements, like a draft and then a final, and this is just a single reporting requirement as opposed to the interim one, which I think was in October. Section 12, this has to do with the braided service model. Senator Kitchell, you had requested that there be language requiring that the assessment address the full maximization of available federal funding. That's the additional language on lines 20 and 21 of page 17. And that's going to take you all the way to some very boring changes starting on page 25. We usually in drafting use may and shall. We do not use can. And there were, I think, 3 instances where for the administrative costs allowance, which says that up to 15% of any of the appropriations for the incentive programs can go, it said can go to administrative costs. This is now making them all consistently be may go. And that is also the change on page 26. You will not see highlighting in
Not to use the pay gap.
you may and you can, meaning you were able.
You will not see highlighting within section 17, starting on page 33, but this is, or you'll see a subdivision that was changed from the subsection, but this is where you've got the changes to the Electrify Your Fleet program to allow those up to 5 for the mobility service providers, and that language has been fully incorporated without change from what you had in the side proposal from last week. That's subsection E, and then it just changed some subsection designations, which is why you'll see a little more highlighting, but that has been fully incorporated based on what you saw as the side proposal. And then that is going to take you to section 23, oh, sorry, page 41, section 23. This is a,
The top of page 39. Is that the only place in the statute where we use that a lot? Just preparing my floor.
so this is not in statute, this is in session law, so it would be harder for me to search for it. So I do not know, and I apologize.
Apology accepted.
I can try and find it though.
Yeah, that's me.
I don't think that warrants any.
You mentioned on
No, additional staff.
where, yes, I agree.
Page 41, this is a Senator Chittenden grammar catch. It used to say on line 13, where more than 15% of new pleasure car registrations, and this was something that the editors were very excited to be asked about, and they agreed with Senator Chittenden that it should be when, so.
Is that UVM behind you right there?
quarter for it. Get a quarter every time you find a grammar. error.
Well, let me tell you, there's plenty of quarters to be had around here.
And then that's gonna take you.
The use of pronouns is just appalling.
Not supposed to use them anymore?
Well, you use, probably subjective a lot of the time, and, you know, you use, a possessive, with a gerund, but other than that,
Keep it
those are
simple,
just a
share
few.
than understand it.
What?
Keep it simple, I don't understand what's going on.
We even had diagram sentences when I was in school. What?
I remember this day.
And you know, the lines down, you know, with the,
I just wish I could get kids to write their name back so I could read it.
oh, but so many, me and my mother went to the store, me and my whatever. It's like, no, drives me nuts.
Okay, where are we now?
This will take you all the way to page 61, which is your last change
Wow.
from the prior draft. This is in section 36. The progression of the language was, it was a bicycle safety education program, and then it shifted to being a micromobility safety education program. And we saw the language last week that had the what's included in micromobility, but then there was discussion amongst the committee saying, but we really want there to be an emphasis on bicycle safety and wouldn't want the stakeholders that are participating to think that this is looking at all of those micromobility modes of transportation in the same way. So adding in with an emphasis on bicycle safety, and that's gonna be lines 14 to 15. And that's the last of your changes from last week. So I'm not aware of other proposals floating out there to be
I
incorporated.
guess we're getting right down. Michelle, anything?
No, thank you, sir.
Be ready, be ready.
Yes, Michelle.
Yes, go ahead.
So Michelle, on the electrify your fleet, I just want to make sure I understand that we're
What page are you on?
page 36. That we changed this with the new rides coming in and talking about their nonprofit fleet. So in the other page, they talk about that. So what I think we're saying is I up to 15 incentives at the fleet level, the 2,500 will be available, but then there's up to 5 per entity could basically get 6,000, even though that
Up
is.
to 6,000, yeah.
And what do you mean by up to 6,000? Oh, that depends on.
Market. So the way, and Anthea can correct me if I don't explain this properly, but what we had asked for was some flexibility language because we're constantly monitoring the point in which the market is driven for folks to enter the market of buying an EV based on when the incentive will be right for them. And sometimes, you know, the prices come down, et cetera. So we don't need to give them a $6,000 incentive.
Oh, so you have that flexibility for the entire program and you're just extending it into this. So they could get 6,000 or whatever it is at that time.
Yeah, in the other program is basically how it's cross-referenced. Do I have that? Have I said
Yeah,
that?
you guys got that. Both
Okay,
of what you said
that's
was
what I thought. I
totally
just
spot on.
wanted to make sure that's what the word, since it was cross-referencing.
Yeah, so basically, because they're a fleet, they can take advantage of up to 20, but 5 of those are gonna be special in that they will be for the lower incomes service utilization.
So-
Because that gets to the 20 that we had before.
And I expect that that'll be addressed in the program guidelines,
Yeah.
saying you won't need to be like a statutory reference, it'll be like linking it between the two.
And the electric snowmobiles are back again.
In the fleets, yes, because of ski areas and, yeah. to address that.
And there's fleet of adaptive bicycles. I mean, I'm fine with it in there, but I was surprised to see.
Yet to be seen, but that was a category that, you know, delivery companies, maybe, or organizations that provide adaptive bikes for their consumers, maybe.
Okay, and then are you planning the administration of the fleet, electrified fleet program to be the same as the other one, like with sustainable energy?
Yeah, Center for Sustainable Energy, and I don't know if we are going to be able to do that by a contract amendment or if we need to go back up to bid, but I think we probably left the contract flexible enough so that we could modify, like, as things like e-bikes came in and out. And that's,
But that's the 15% is also an administrative cost in the other program, so you're just carrying it forward.
Yeah.
all of the programs, whether they're codified or still in session, will have 15%, including mileage charge.
One other question is, I'd vote for it.
The one thing that, I don't know if we made it official, and that was to take the
Oh, the
fees
fees, yeah.
out of this bill
Yes.
and have them go in the budget.
Yes.
Okay. I
Yeah,
just-
they have not been in any of your drafts.
No, I know that. I just want to confirm that. And then we'll deal with the two projects that are in the book, about how they get funded.
We'll just deal that when the bill gets sent to appropriation.
And we'll have to, yeah, we'll deal with it.
We'll go to finance, this, she didn't get it on the shot at.
Well, they've already been doing that.
But that's just the fees, will they get the whole bills or anything else in here?
I don't think there's anything else in the bill except maybe for the mileage-based user fee, but that's not creating a fee yet. It's just saying like, give us lots of information on it. So I don't know if,
Can you create it without actual legislative action? We need that here.
Where's the DMV bill these days?
it is in House Transportation. I think they are trying to vote it out
They're taking off
tomorrow.
the unpaid, unsigned
Uh,
section.
I think that is going to be similar to the municipal training on complete streets. It'll be outreach to municipalities to provide them with information on what they can already do under statute and enforcement.
Which is quite a bit, if they choose.
So they have the first draft of their strike all amendment is posted for today. They're gonna have a walkthrough of that. There are a couple placeholders for language they're still working on, but in general, they're not doing much modification to what came over in many instances for the second time in 2 years. And they're just adding a few things.
So the towing is where they're changing in that unpaid.
Those are changes. They're also working on some hands-free use language for distracted driving. The motorcycle labeling language, I think is gonna come out and instead be incorporated into the noise study that they're doing, looking at whether or not labeling should be something that is added to statute or the inspection manual going forward. Yeah,
Not too much.
yeah, it wasn't a lot of changes. And then for the towing piece, they kept all of the sections except for the lien language. I think that's gonna be replaced with a working group to look at the issues. Not General Assembly membership, I don't
You
think.
won't be appointed.
And they are going to ask for an oral report and a written report on how much is being given in overall reimbursement now that that $16,000 has been taken out of statute for purposes of the tows from public property.
If it's not enough, they would come back in the BAA. It's just.
They're worried about going over the cap. I assume that's why they put that language,
Yeah, I mean, so it's not,
or going over that amount. It's no
or
longer-
going over that amount, or if there should be a cap that's something between 16,000 and some other number, and just looking for more information on that. So it's an oral report on, I think the first 6 months of this fiscal year, and then it's a written report on 2 full fiscal years.
I see that as the issue. The issue is if we say under those conditions, we are incurring a responsibility to make the payment. We can't say, yeah, we want you to tow for nothing if the cap is reached. It seems to me, when we say law enforcement, it's determined it's a safety issue, they've called and have the car removed and we reimburse. To me, then that's a state obligation and the same as any other obligation we might have now. And we've capped it based on the amount we pay
Per tow.
per tow. But to say, well, we're gonna cap the amount that we reimburse for something that is viewed as safety and requested by law enforcement, I think it's just begging the issue, to be honest. But that's only my 2 cents. So they can study it, but it's like, is it a fundamental obligation for that service? And I would say, yes, it is. And if it is, you pay for it, period. That's, you don't even need to respond. You don't even.
I'm not gonna respond. I was gonna pivot and talk about something else.
Good.
The one other change that I think you will see, and this does relate to the fees, is if you'll remember in the miscellaneous motor vehicle bill for the last 2 years, it had the shifting for the milk hauler permits.
We'll calibrate that.
So there is language in, their draft of the T-bill that would take effect, just shifting those fees to the 20% escalator of the lowered amount, because it's matching it to the 80,000 for milk hauling for the all products permit. That would take effect on January 1, 2024, if the fees are amended somewhere else. And it could be that there's a decision made to just use that section in wherever the other fees go and keep it separated.
Chris will be tracking that.
Yeah, but I would say that that's a decision that needs to be made in the
There's one
building.
fee that's being eliminated. So
Yeah,
if
because
it's
the $10.
eliminated, then you don't update it.
Yeah, the concern is just if you include the language that increases the fees in the big bill or wherever the fees end up going, it's presupposing that the miscellaneous motor vehicle bill will pass. And I think everyone thinks it's probably gonna pass, but it might make sense to keep them together because then the language tracks that if the fees are consolidated down to the 2 paths to legally haul milk at 90,000 pounds, then these are what the fees change to.
Well, the budget's the last thing to get conferenced, and all these other bills, we would know the fate. So I don't see that as something that, we can't track, right? The timing will work.
The problem is
If we don't pass the DMV bill like we did last year,
right, so that I'm just trying to think about the timing in my head. If you don't include the increase, if you hold the increase to that one fee going from $382 to 382 times 1.2, if you hold that for the big bill, you'll know if the miscellaneous motor vehicle bill passed, and then you could add it in.
Mhm.
So I think you probably could not include it in the miscellaneous motor vehicle bill and then change accordingly in the big bill. The one small weird caveat is, no, I think you'd be fine. I think you'd be fine.
we can do anything in the budget.
Well, there was,
Yeah.
well, there was 1 year where the miscellaneous motor vehicle bill was actually the last bill to be enacted because there was just a glitch and it hadn't been signed by then Lieutenant Governor Gray. It was just like an administrative error. So it has a later bill number than the big bill that year. So I was just trying to think through later enacted. But I think we could sort it out. So I will mention that in House Transportation today, that
Michelle?
we have this conversation in public and it could probably be sorted out with a bit.
I'm sure we can figure it out.
I was gonna change track altogether.
Yeah.
Oh, no, are we on trains again?
No trains,
No,
not
no.
today, that's Thursday.
Thursday.
So, which reminds me, we were in, Senate Finance on Friday afternoon to review the mileage-based user fee language with the committee. And there were a lot of great questions, and I think the chair and the committee understood that we would be coming back to the next year with the sort of final implementation recommendations based on the work we are doing, or at least a progress report, depending on when we get the grant. So I don't know if there's anything else you thought of that we should know.
But no changes, they're not,
No.
they didn't have a problem with
They're
the
fine
language
with the
that's in the bill.
Heads up that it's coming.
Yeah, maybe or maybe not. I think the chair understood that since there were no specific fee recommendations in the bill, that it may not be sent to the committee, but I could.
We had more conversation about the fees that are being pulled out, and Chris answered them really well, overlaying with other indicators over the past few years to justify the 19.2%.
19.8.
19.8%.
So the mileage, the fee-based, mileage-based, will it be next year that you will be coming in
So
with any recommendations?
we are anticipating the program would commence on July 1st of 2025. So I would suspect in all likelihood, we're not gonna, unless DMV needs a determination before, the session commences in order to do programming, but I don't think so under the new system. Or we need the set amount because of work that a third-party vendor we're working with needs it. We would, it could be as early as next year that we bring the fee recommendation, but it could be the following session. It might be nice to lock it in the second half of the biennium so that we know where we're heading,
On the miscellaneous, there was an exchange between Cindy of VAST and Mike Smith on
Printing stickers.
sticker on the sticker.
yeah, are they changing? Is that being changed or?
So the last I heard was there were some offline conversations that were gonna be had about whether or not VAST could print the stickers. But as of now, no changes to any of your sticker language in the miscellaneous motor vehicle bill, except there is 2 rules that mention requirements around having a validation sticker that was overlooked in the fall and winter when I searched in statute for validation sticker. So one of the things that House Transportation is considering today is whether or not to include language telling the DMV, notwithstanding this rule, don't issue those validation stickers and update the rule. Unfortunately, one of the rules has to do with snowmobiles, so I think it's creating a little bit of confusion as to what's happening with snowmobile validation stickers. And I don't know if Michelle knows more than that.
Oh, but that might be another potential area of change in the.
It would be one additional sticker section for the snowmobile stickers, and then also there is an administrative penalty for a Vermont dealer driving a dealer plated vehicle without a validation sticker. So it'd be eliminating that administrative penalty from the rule.
That's currently the case?
Yeah, it's currently in rule, so it's not something that you can change in statute. The DMV would need to change it in their rule, but we can tell them in session law to ignore that part of the rule. Or you can tell them.
We can, we can notwithstand anything.
They didn't have enough. These are the inspection stickers. or-
No, these are the validation, the little like beer sticker on the dealer plate.
Yeah. Makes-
And it's like a $50 administrative penalty.
When would the stickers stop being
November 1st.
November?
Yeah, that's to align with the first day of the month preceding when they think the the vehicle services module will be launched, which they believe is Veterans Day weekend, so mid-November. So those 10 or 11 sections go into effect on November 1st.
Some license plates are getting pretty thick with those stickers. I don't know how.
Upside down, sideways, most of them are covered with a plate on top of the plate.
I know,
You
and
can't see
actually,
them anywhere.
I've noticed so many like
Yeah.
dealer, the frames
Oh,
actually.
yeah,
are
the frames
struck.
cover them, right?
It's hard to tell what state it is.
No, you can't, it's unbelievable.
We must have a law on that, don't we?
There's a law that says it needs to be visible.
That's what I would think.
Nobody enforces that.
No, we'll have one by noon.
And it
So-
and it helps if it happens to be obstructed, if you have a camera that's trying to read plates, people might choose a frame that covers it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, there are examples of people doing that or going through tolls.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Becoming a very big issue.
yeah.
I heard that they sometimes take a leaf and then put like a glue stick on it and put the glue leaf.
There is a whole, I read a whole article about how in New York, there is an epidemic of people of like vandalizing their plates to
Yeah.
obscure 1 or 2 characters. And it is becoming a very, very big issue.
Yeah, that's what,
Those tolls are not 50 cents, those tolls are $20.
yeah.
More reason not to have tolls, thank you.
They can think of everything.
Tell that to New Hampshire. They make a lot of money on their tolls. Was it you that was telling that they want to actually create a market and sell surplus?
We were talking, the
Toll
toll
credits?
credit marketplace, we were talking about a couple weeks ago, that's authorized in the infrastructure law, and New Hampshire is one of those states that has a surplus of toll credits that they're hoping to unload on other states.
We like that.
Yeah.
Be beneficial.
Guess who's some of the key sponsors? New Hampshire senators.
Is the committee prepared to vote the bill out?
Today,
Then Michelle and Anthea can start doing the overviews, introductions and sections, details.
Yeah, so I'll prepare a section by section summary, and then I'll have a version of the bill that's just highlighted to show all of the changes.
Yeah.
And then I know that the agency normally provides some other stuff.
Okay, who would like to?
I'll make a motion.
If we voted out today, do you have enough time to do your section by, I don't want to overstress Anthea.
It's fine. That's all-
Would you like another day or anything?
It's already started, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
He works
Also, it
better,
has to go to Senate Appropriations anyway.
he works better at 11 o'clock at night.
All right.
I make a motion that we vote to go out
favorably.
favorably.
With a minute.
You're the clerk.
Yeah.
You gotta get your paper out.
I got it out. I got it out and filled out. We need a second.
Oh,
Do we need to say, yeah, I'll second it.
Okay. Senator Mazza, should I call the roll?
Yes, sir.
Senator Tom Tinden,
Yes, aye.
Senator James Kitchell,
yeah.
Senator Angie Pertlick,
Yes.
Senator Russ Ingles is a yes, and Senator Mazza.
Yes.
And it's passed 5-0-0.
And I'll get you a clean copy without the highlighting to give to.
And then I think you're the reporter, because you do your
I'll do the
introduction.
I'll do the
Yeah.
introduction, we'll split up.
Okay, reporter, I'm gonna say Senator Mazza for now.
As a reporter, then he defers. Or refers.
Okay, and you'll have the clean section, so
Yeah, I'll send you a
So-
clean, no highlighted version. I'll send it to everyone.
I'll leave this right.
And then that just needs to make it to the Senate Secretary.
Yeah, as soon as I have that, I'll take it up.
Yeah, with the clean copy, or, right?
All right, German is the
I
15th
don't
of
know,
May.
I'm not
Are you
like
gonna keep-
allowed to
Are you gonna
send.
keep everything the same as far as?
Yeah, it'll still be draft 2.1.
Well, Friday.
And then 414, all that? Okay.
All I'm gonna do is go in and
Something else.
Control A and then get rid of all the highlighting,
No, were you on worried?
and I'll do that now.
So, former Representative Al Perry's here, and the group for the USF for month. They're having some
Well,
little,
the whole group, the support group, not,
yeah, the support group, at 1:15.
you're gonna miss comments.
Yeah, I am. You're laughing.
Talk about the bottle bill? I suppose that's gonna go